Hello, welcome. Good to see you again. Welcome to Block 2, Solving Problems with Multiplication and Division, Lesson 7. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned how to do metric units conversion. You learned about converting metric units of length, mass, and capacity. In today's lesson, you're going to learn how to use formal methods to multiply integers. Integers mean whole numbers. Now, I want you to take note that there are different methods of doing multiplication. In fact, one that I find quite interesting, which we're going to learn about in future lessons, but not now, is the Vedic method of doing multiplication, where you become even faster than a calculator. But let's put that aside for now. Let's focus on formal written methods of multiplying integers. I would like you to support our mission of educating the global population of children by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, share the video to those you think could benefit from it. Click on the notification bell so that when new videos are uploaded, you will be notified. Thank you. Before we start, I would like you to answer these retrieval practice questions in 2 minutes. Assuming you have answered the questions, here are the answers. So here you were asked, write down any multiplications or additions shown by the model. So this model, the bar model, shows these additions. Remember, for bar models, we always add the bars. And it also shows multiplication, which is 12 lots of 6. 6 lots of 12. Next, you ask, question 2, decide whether each statement is always, sometimes, or never true. So integer additions can be represented as multiplication sometimes when we have the multiplication integers being the same. Okay, so for example, 4 times 4 is the same thing as 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 into 4 lots. Okay, integer multiplications can be represented as additions, so that is always true. Now, let's look at the formal method of multiplying integers using our place value chart. So here, the place value chart shows 3,504 into 5 lots. Now, looking at this, we're going to look at how to do the multiplication and how to do the exchange. So remember, in your place value chart, if you have more than 10 lots of values or counters in that column, you're going to have to do an exchange. So let's do the first one. So 5 times 4 ones, we can see here that we now have 20 ones. So immediately we see that we have 2 groups of 10s. Okay, so 10 ones, we can exchange it for 110, and then we can exchange another 10 1 for 110. So that moves over to the 10 column. Then we have to write that there. So we no longer have anything here, so we'll write a 0 because we've done our exchange, we've done our multiplication, and we've done our exchange. So the 2 10s is now here. So next, when we do 5 times 0, we know it's 0, right? So we just simply write our 2 there. Next, 5 lots of hundreds will give us 5 hundreds. Now remember, we can exchange 10 hundreds for 1,000. Okay, so that gives us, okay, when we exchange those two groups, the 10 will have 2 thousands. Now all the thousands we have, so remember, we write it there. Here we only now have 500s left. Okay, so that's 5, and we now have all together, we have, okay, plus the thousands we had there before, which was 15, because 5 times 3 is 15, and that one will now give us 17. So when we write it, we can do exchange of the tens, Okay, remember we have tens that will give us 1,000, and then we're left with 7. And then we write the 1 there. So that's our answer. Well, doing this exchange is to help you understand how things actually work. So a lot of people will just say, oh, I know how to do this, so let's do it quickly. This is what we've simply done. Okay, so the exchange is just to help you understand this. So 5 times 4 is 20. 0, you carry 2. 5 times 0 is 0. This 2 you carried, you have to add it there. That's 2. Sorry, I shouldn't be writing it there. Let's rub that off. Okay, let's draw a line there. Okay, so that's the 2 there. Okay, let's cross that out. We've used it. 5 times 5 is 25. So we write 5. We carry 2 because the 2 always shifts to the place value. That is the exchange. So the 2, remember when we carry 2 here, we write it here in the next place value column because we're doing an exchange. So doing this is just to help you understand what's going on, but this is what we're actually doing. When you see people do this, they're doing exchange. So now 5 times 3 is 15, plus these 2 here is 17. We're going to write 7 and we're going to carry 1. We have to do the exchange, which is here, and that 1 is what is here. Okay, so it's important you understand that this is a formal written method of doing this. Okay, and the place value chart is just to help you understand why we do what we do. Okay, another way of doing multiplication is to use your grid method. So what we do is we partition the numbers into their different parts. So into thousands, hundreds, and ones, or units, the way some people call it. Now, if we do that, we don't really need to write 0 because actually we have anything we multiply by 0 is 0. So we can ignore that. So this becomes this 3,500 and then 4. When you multiply them, we can now add these. Okay, we add these and then we get that number. You see? So by adding these up, we get this. So this is another way of doing a formal method of multiplying integers. What about this one? We can also use the counters, using counters to do our multiplication. Well, this is a long way of doing it, but it's to help you understand what's going on. So for example, 217 times 4, we can write our counters out. So we have 200s, we have 110, and we have 7 ones times 4. Okay, so this is to help you understand what's really going on. So 1 times 100 is 100, 1 times 100 is 100, 1 times 10. So anything you multiply by 1 is that same thing. Now, the rest will be the same, okay? Now, if we do our exchange, you can see we have lots of ones. We're going to have that, okay? So our answer essentially is 800. So we're now adding all these here will give us our result. So you can see we have 800s, we have 6 tens, and we have 8 ones. Okay, pause the video, choose the method that you're comfortable with, and answer this question. Pause the video and answer question 1. All right, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 1, here are the answers. So mark your work, choose the method you prefer, and work with it. Okay? And then here, you're being asked for C, which method is not appropriate for doing these 2 digits multiplication. So that one, method 3, that will take a long time to do. All right, pause the video and answer questions 2 and 3 in 4 minutes. Okay, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered questions 2 and 3, here are the answers. So mark your work and celebrate your success. So use a formal method to work out the multiplications. Then you can choose which one you prefer, okay, to work out these multiplications. So refer to our first examples and really choose a method that works for you and stick to it. Some people like the grid method, some people like the column method of multiplication. And then here you ask to use count. So Mo uses counters to work this out. So you ask to complete the calculation. So here you just simply add in these. That's all. That's all. You add these, then you do your exchange, which you think you could do, and then you get your answer. Pause the video and answer question 4 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. So here is a mistake, okay? It's not 1,200 here. It should be 12,000. So a quick way to notice this is 4 times 3 is 12. And then you have, this is 10 times, you've just ignored it. That is 10 times bigger. You've ignored it. That is 100 times bigger. So your answer should actually be, 12,000, not 1,200. Okay, when we do 2-digit multiplication, we use the same approach. So it's a bit like, this calculation is a bit like doing 326 times 2. You write it on the side, and then you do 326 times 30. You write it on the side, and you add both of them when you finish. So that's what really happens. So here, we're doing this one first. So using that method we discussed, we're going to ignore exchange now, because for some people it becomes a bit too much talking about, oh, we exchange these hundreds, we exchange these ones. You now understand that when we do our carry and shift, we're doing it because we're doing an exchange. So 3 times, 6 times 2 is 12. We're going to write 2. We're going to do our carry. Why? We're doing our carry of the 1 because we're doing an exchange. So we write 2. Then we do the next one. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus the 1 we carried is 5. So we cross that one out and we write 5. Okay? Because we've used it. Next, you move to the other one. 2 times 3 is 6. So you write it there. Okay, we're done with that one. We'll now shift to doing our multiplication by 30. But this time, we just look at it as 3. So 3 times, remember, we're doing our multiplication here. So we'll start to write our results from here, this column here. Okay, because that's where our place value is. Remember, this number is like saying 326 times 30. We've done 326 times 2. So 6 times 3 is 18. We'll write our 8 and we'll have to do our carry. Now, we put a 0 there because we know the 30 does not have a 1. Yeah, it doesn't have any ones, any digits in the ones. So we usually use 0 as a placeholder. So we write our 8 and we do our carry. Okay? So remember, 6 times 3 is 18. So we write our 8, we do our carry. Remember what I said. We're doing our carry because we're doing an exchange. Here we have 18 tenths. 10 tenths is equal to 100. So that's why we're doing our carry. I'm not going to be repeating it because by now you know when we do our calculation, we do our carry because we've done an exchange in our place value chart. Next, we do 3 times 2, which is 6. Okay, so 6 plus the 1 we carried is 7. So we cross the 1 because we've used it. It's now 7. Next, we do 3 times 3, which is 9. Now, we write our 9. Okay? Okay, now we're going to add these up. So now we have 2 add 0 is 2. 5 add 8 is 13. We write, remember, we'll have to carry. Anytime you have anything more than 10, you have to do a carry. If you have anything that is 10 and above, if it's a 10, you write 0, you do a carry. You're doing a carry because you're doing an exchange. So this time is 13 when you add. So you write 3, you do your carry of 1 because you're doing an exchange. 6 add 7 is 13 plus that one you carried is 14. Okay. All right. So it's 14. So You write your 4 and you do your carry. So remember, you cross that out. You cross this out here because we've used it. We've added it to the 13 here. So ideally, we should cross this out. So as we go along. So it's important when you do these calculations, cross out the ones you've used. So now the 9 plus this one you carried is 10. So you write the 0. Remember I said once if it's up to 10 and above, you write a 0 and you do your carry. Now your carry will have to be a 1, which will go in the 10,000s column. Now your answer is 10,432. We could do this calculation using our grid method. So this number, we split them up, partition them into their different values. So here we have 60 and 4, and the other one is 400, 70 and 3. See whether you can do this calculation before we review it. Okay, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. So you get these, okay? And what do you do in the end? You add them. And they give you your result, 30,272. All right, pause the video and it's time for you to practice what you've learned. So pause the video and answer question 5 in 3 minutes. So this means calculation, complete this calculation. Okay, here are your answers, assuming you've answered the questions. So well done, celebrate your success. Pause the video and answer question 6 in 5 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. So celebrate your success. So here you were asked to use the column multiplication. So this is to help you with alternating between different methods so that you really master one method, compared to another, but you can choose to just stick to one. So if you're okay using grid multiplication, that's great. Keep doing that. All right, so here are the answers. So mark your work and celebrate your success. Well done. And that's the answer for E and F. All right, pause the video and answer question 7 in 2 minutes. All right, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the question, here is the answer. So using place value, 718 times 20, you can see the mistake here is equal to 14,360, not this, okay? So the person did a place value mistake. They didn't do their carry properly. And that brings us to the end of our lesson. So really well done for sticking around and for taking your learning seriously. So what have we learned so far? We have learned so far that you can use usually 2 methods for your formal written method of calculation. We learned about the grid method and we learned about the column method. Now, remember, there are other quicker ways of doing calculations like this, such as the Vedic sutras, the Vedic maths method of doing multiplications, where you are even faster than a calculator. But that is not our focus for this lesson. Our focus is for you to master the formal written method, which you could be required to write in a test or exam. Really well done for sticking around, for taking your learning seriously. Until next time, take really good care of yourself. Bye-bye.